hello, everyone. Welcome back. You are listening to Whisk and Wonder Presents Savory Moments Podcast. I'm your host, Chef Erica Ashmeade, also known as Cookbook Fanatic in these social media streets. On today's episode of Savory Moments, I sit down with Briana White, the mastermind behind the wonderfully curated foodie events in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Also, the one of the founders and CEO of Cultivate Cruises and Cultivate Enterprises. She is also a very sought after food writer here in the Pittsburgh area. Welcome, Brianna. I'm so thankful for you and your time to choose to do this podcast with me. I want you to know that I am new to the whole podcast scene. I'm still in the research phase. I woke up one morning, I was like, you know what? I want to have a podcast. I want to have these conversations regarding the hospitality and culinary industries. I want to feature stories that are not necessarily getting the attention that they should. So here I am. And I had you, your tenacity, your impact on Pittsburgh in mind because I've been watching you for a long time, but I'm just so grateful for you.
I'm grateful for you. I'm glad that you asked me to be a part of this. I'm super excited.
Awesome, me too. So, the main reason why I wanted to have this conversation with you is because you just seem to be mixing your creativity, your 9 to 5, as well as all of your endeavors, your side hustles all together. Because there was one thing that I also did not mention that you do a little dabbling in the Airbnb as well. So I'm wondering, how do you manage everything that you're dipping your toe into?
Uh, listen. I wish there was more hours in the day, but God made it 24 hours for a reason, so I'm gonna go with it and just try to utilize as many of those 24 hours as I can. But believe me, I love a good nap, so that's important. Is to take a nap. But yeah, as far as the Airbnb, I don't do Airbnb anymore, but I did it for about 4 years in my primary home, but I have my basement finished. And so guests were able to come in and out through the garage. I gave them the garage door opener. They had their own bathroom down there, their own, fridge, microwave. So we didn't have to share any space. So
Right.
that is what made it work for me because I couldn't imagine. There are some people who share their house and they're sharing the same bathroom as Airbnb guests. So it worked out for me with it being in my house that we're in completely separate spaces.
Mhm.
And I had one guest who was here for 2.5 years. He worked but lived in West Virginia. So he would come on Monday evenings after work and leave Friday mornings. And that even went through the pandemic. And so I was grateful for him because I'm like, he paid my mortgage every month.
Right, right.
So I haven't done Airbnb in a couple of years, but I've been thinking about bringing it back. Especially with the draft coming to Pittsburgh. Listen, I need
Oh,
30
yes.
4 days. I need all the coins. But outside of that, I have my mobile notary business. I've been doing that for 7 years. It's a Breeze Mobile Notary. I actually just got a text for mobile notary right before I clicked on this Zoom. So that's been really, really great. I work with a couple of different like law firms and hospitals, nursing homes, and things like that. And then plus just word of mouth.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's been really successful. It's a great way to make some additional money. And it's kind of, you make your own schedule with that. So that is also a part of having the flexibility to be able to do multiple things is getting a side hustle or whatever you want to call it or a new business where you can have that flexibility where you can set your own schedule and do it when you're available. And then I don't know if we're getting into everything right at this moment, but
Girl, go ahead and tell them everything that you dabbling in. Tell them.
as you can see on my screen here, the Wing and
Mhm.
Max SmackDown, which is one of my signature events. We're having the next one on Saturday, August 2nd, 6 to 10 p.m. at the Cabaret Banquet Hall on Frankstown Avenue in Homewood. And what the Wing and Max SmackDown is this cooking competition. So we have local chefs, home cooks, caterers, food truck owners alike who are competing to see who has the best wings and mac and cheese in the burg. And so when you buy your ticket, you're able to come and sample all the entries from all the contestants, vote for your favorite. And of course, we always have vendors there. So I'm partnering with TLC Libations, which is a Black woman-owned distillery here in the city of Pittsburgh. Erica Turner and her mother own that. And so I just met with her yesterday to sample the cocktail that we're going to have. We're going to have 2 cocktails because she made one for me last year. She made an additional one this year. Those there. Unico Vino Wine, which is a Black-owned wine company, was at the SmackDown last year. He'll be back again this year. We have dessert vendors. We're going to have some live performances, the DJ. So it's going to be a great time. And I'm celebrating 10 years of Brilicious Bites. Yes, I started my Brilicious Bites 10 years ago. And so it's been a wonderful journey. I've had a lot of success and I've had a lot of opportunities come to me because of Brilicious Bites.
Yes.
I always tell this story, but I'm going to tell it here on this podcast because it's going to reach different people. So 10 years ago, I was just, actually the same way I am now, but, going out to eat and trying lots of different things and traveling. And I would, just be posting stuff on Facebook. And one day I was like, I'd really like something of my own to house my pictures and my experiences in. And, wanted to like announce different events that were going on in the city, like food related events and things like that. And I said, I'm going to start a food blog, I said I'm going to start a food blog. And so I went to the library at the time and I Googled how to start a blog and I put this website together. And I'm like, okay, now what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to get the word out about what I'm offering? And so I reached out to Bernard Alexander, shout out to the Connect.
Okay, yes.
And he connected me with Donna Baxter, who runs the Soul Pit magazine. And Donna went onto the website. She's like, oh, the website looks good. And she's like, are you writing for any other publications? At this point, I had had my blog up for like 2 weeks. And I'm like, no, like I didn't, And so she's like, well, we don't have anybody currently doing restaurant reviews. Do you want to start writing for the Soul Pit? And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, yes. And so I started writing for the Soul Pit. So that was in the spring of 2015. I wrote my first article was published in the Soul Pit. And it was just a super exciting experience. So I was doing that quarterly. And then I ended up running into the editor from the New Pittsburgh Courier at an event through Pittsburgh Black Media Federation. I used to be on the board for Pittsburgh Black Media Federation.
Yes.
Talk to them because I learned a lot from the leadership there because I used to call myself a fake journalist. And I'm just doing these restaurant reviews, but you know what I mean? It's its own lane. But at the time, like 10 years ago, 9 years ago. And so I learned a lot from the people in Pittsburgh Black Media Federation, which is it's through the National Association of Black Journalists. And so I was connected with a lot of Black journalists here in the city and beyond when we would go to these different conventions. But anyway, I ran into Rob Taylor at a PBMF event. And I knew he was from the Courier. And I went over to him and I said, I see that y'all don't currently have anybody doing restaurant reviews in the Courier. You need me.
I know that's
and then I started doing the restaurant reviews for the New Pittsburgh Courier. So it was just such a blessing to be able to write in both of these publications. And then on top of that, I was getting invited to all different types of restaurant openings and menu tastings and things of that nature. And, it was just like a whirlwind. I was just like, me taking this one small step to start this blog has opened up so many doors. And then I was also on Plate of Pittsburgh. And so Plate of Pittsburgh is a cooking competition similar to Chopped, but it's featuring local Pittsburgh chefs, and they're really trying to win money for a charity. And so it's like 2 contestants, and they're preparing an appetizer, entree, and dessert for us. And I was the standing judge on season 1 of Plate of Pittsburgh, which you can still watch on Very Local. So that was an amazing opportunity because I was just like, I never thought that I would be on TV eating food, doing what I love, and getting paid for it. I'm like, this is you come true. And shout out to Dave Foreman, who was the host and also a judge on Plate at Pittsburgh. And then we had a rotating judge as the 3rd judge ever. So there were 6 episodes of that for the first season. So that was also just such a huge blessing and really expanded my platform. And then when the pandemic hit, all the restaurants were starting to close down. And that's when I started kind of to pivot to do more things outside of writing. But I also will just say before that, I've done some things in Table Magazine and also Eater.com. So Eater.com was like my first like internationally published article where I was able to highlight 38 restaurants in the Pittsburgh area. And I really, my main focus is always to try to shine the light on as many Black and brown restaurants as I can. And so there was a lot of people who weren't happy with the list.
Yes.
I was just like, well, when they start paying you for your opinion, then you can say something. But this is who I wanted to highlight. And I had the opportunity to do so. And I did it. So after, when the pandemic hit, all the restaurants were closing and things like that. So I'm just like, okay. And I was kind of like at my wits' end with the writing, like the deadlines and the word counts and things like that. So I started, to cook myself. And I really didn't know that I was this great of a cook. I
Yes.
started
Listen. Okay. When you dropped off them those rolls,
the salmon lasagna roll.
it was gone in 2 minutes. All of it, the whole pan. Okay.
The salmon lasagna rolls was a hit. Man, we would be, and they're so labor intensive. So when people were asking me to make them, I did end up making some earlier this year, but they're very labor intensive.
Yeah.
Then on top of that, we was delivering them all. It was the whole production. It's a labor of love. And my thing is, though, I will say this: I'd rather cook for love than money. When I'm cooking for people I love, I enjoy it. When I'm cooking for money and selling food, I don't enjoy it as much, and I get super stressed out.
Yes.
Because I want everything to be perfect. I want it to be on time because I know what my standard is when I'm ordering food from somebody. And a lot of times they don't deliver on the taste, the quality,
Exactly.
the promptness, everything that I would want. And so I hold myself to that standard and higher. And so I want my food to be excellent. I will not have myself associated with nasty food. So
Exactly.
you know what I mean? I take that very seriously. And so I put a lot of pressure on myself to make sure everything is perfect. The thing is, when I cook for love too, it also turns out perfect. And so but I really enjoy cooking for the people that I love. And so my newest dish that is the rich Auntie Mac. And I'm telling you, I got to get some of that to you.
Please.
Just because I'm on this podcast, I got to get you some of the rich Auntie Mac. And I had this opportunity to go on Talk Pittsburgh, promote the mac and cheese competition I was doing at the August Wilson Block Party. And when they asked me to do it, like, mac and cheese wasn't one of my specialties. Although I do this Million Mac Smackdown, I haven't made mac and cheese that many times in my life. And I said, you know what? I can't pass up this opportunity to be on TV, so I'm going to figure it out. And so they had told me maybe like a week before it was happening. So I went and what I did, actually, I did some research.
Okay.
I got on Facebook and I made a post and I said, what types of cheeses do y'all be putting in your mac and cheese?
Yes.
And all these people started commenting all these different cheeses. So I'm like, okay, I like this cheese. Okay, I never really used this cheese. So I was like, okay. The next day I made another post on Facebook, like, egg or no egg in your mac and cheese. And I didn't realize that was, well, I did. I guess I did know. That's why I posed the question. It was half and half. Like, people were saying egg or no egg. And I think people will be surprised that there is an egg in the rich Auntie mac and cheese because you can't really taste it. But I was like, my grandma used egg. I'm going to use.
Yes.
And, when I ended up making it the first time, I really didn't love it. It was good, but I'm like, it's not to my standard. It's not like what I want. And Mr. Rice, who is my business partner, we'll get into that with Culture Bake. But he's also like my taste tester. And one of the reasons why I started cooking in the first place, honestly. And he tasted, he's like, it's good. He was like, and I was like, no, but it's not hitting the way that I wanted to hit.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, the sauce that you make, blah, blah. He's like, why not just add that to the mac and cheese? And I did. I said, that is it. That is it. That has set the rich Auntie Mac to a whole nother level. So everyone who tastes it is just like, I've never tasted mac and cheese like this before.
Yeah.
It's completely different than anyone else's mac and cheese. And that's how I want my food to be.
Yeah.
I want you to remember my food. I want you to savor it. I want you, you know what I mean? I want you to think about it. And I make it in a small little pan. And I'm like, if I ever sold it, it's going to be sold right into that small little pan because, one, that's how I know how to make it. I think sometimes the mistake that people make is trying to, double their recipe. And some people are good at making individual meals. And when it comes to catering and stuff, their food is not as good.
Right.
Quality drops down or whatever. So I'm like, if I sell it, I'm selling it in this small pan. It's also, it makes people got to keep on wanting more.
Yeah. Yes. Wanting more, creating a demand, and quality control. Yes. You got it down.
All those things. All those things. I will just share this one last thing. I was going around the August Wilson Block Party, just randomly stopping to people and letting them taste the rich Auntie Mac because I brought a small pan.
Wow.
A couple of days later, this lady messages me and say, yeah, I'm going to order 2 large pans of that mac and cheese. I said, ma'am, I'm not a caterer, but I love that she loved it, and so people want to order and I'm like, okay.
Yeah. My goodness. Cause when we done, I'm going to order me a pan. I don't know if you're going to make it cause I know it's a lot of work, but
mac and cheese actually is not that hard for me. I can make it pretty quick, but I'm going to bring you a sample
Okay.
regardless, just
Okay.
because you invited me here today.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it because I was looking at the video last night. I said, man, I can taste it through the screen.
It's fire. It really, really is.
Oh, man. It's amazing. Your story just speaks to me so much because I know a lot of people don't know much about me in the food scene. And I battled with a lot of fear of success because I started a food blog back in 2009 and it was doing very well. And I was the first event. No, I was invited to two events. One was the very first restaurant week, and then the other was a tasting of Bob Evans when they first started having the already made mashed potatoes and macaroni and cheese. So they wanted to invite bloggers. And then fear set in, fear of success, and that has been my downfall for quite a few years. Can you speak to that, or maybe how to combat any of that? Have you experienced it?
I don't really think that I have. That's not something that I struggle with. I struggle with procrastination.
Okay.
Which is not good for as many things as I do. But as far as like a fear of failure, I don't think I've ever really dealt with that because I want it. You know what I mean? I want, I want it. But I'm also and I always ask me, I'm like, do you feel like I'm an introvert or extrovert?
You're an extrovert. What do you
I
mean?
think I'm an introvert. Well, I'm an introverted extrovert or extroverted introvert. You gotta
okay.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a little bit of both. So people, you know what I mean? I like kind of being behind the scenes. Although it may not appear so, I like being behind the scenes. And so yeah, but procrastination is something that I more so struggle with. And also and it's hard to juggle, so many things. Even with the Wing and Max SmackDown, I feel like I'm behind on some things and I'm just like, there's so much work. It's so much that goes into it. And I have my business partner, but there's a lot of things also that, I'm just like, I have to do this by myself. And that's another thing I struggle with is asking for help. There's people who are willing to help me.
Yeah.
And so those are a couple of the things that I struggle with more so is procrastination, asking for help.
Yeah. And I knew better to ask you because I said, she is a diva. Okay. She is fabulous. She has the confidence of a goddess. Do not ask her that question.
But you never know what people are internally struggling with. You know what I mean? And that's, people always check on your strong friends. You don't know what people are going through. People can put on facades and faces and make things look good on social media.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you asking the question because you just never know.
Yes. So I do want to ask about your media work, played in Pittsburgh, and as well as any unforgettable stories that you've come across because your career, it spans 10 years. We're on the anniversary of it. So first, tell me about that experience. While you're sitting there and you're judging the food and things of that nature, what are you thinking about?
I'm thinking about, I hope this food is good. So I don't have to lie. Like I said, being on the show and being with the production, like it was just a dream come true. So while we were shooting first, we shot the pilot episode. So how it even ended up happening is someone from the network had reached out to me. I don't even remember how they got my information. And we shot the pilot episode and we were waiting to hear back if it was going to be picked up. And once we got the green light that it was picked up, we were all super excited. Initially, this is a little insider, which most people don't know. I'm going to share it with you. There were 3 set people who were supposed to be on the show.
Really?
Episodes. They only ended up selecting 2 of us, me and Dave, which is how we ended up getting the rotating judges on every episode thereafter. But there was initially 3 people who shot the pilot episode. Yeah, so that's a little tidbit. And so while we're recording, while we're there, and I was just like, oh, so this is how it really works on TV. It's not like what you think it is. They had 45 minutes to make these 3 dishes. There were some of them every now and then who wouldn't get finished in the 45 minutes. You know what I mean? So we're letting them finish. We're letting them finish up. Some of the food will be cold by the time we got to taste it. Different things of that nature. But overall, it was still a great experience. So mostly I'm like, am a big visual person when it comes to food. I'm eating with my eyes first. And so that is always something that was very important to me is the presentation. Is the presentation, and then also, how they're incorporating the special ingredients. And we also wanted there to be some type of Pittsburgh element to the dish as a whole, just with it being played at Pittsburgh. So it was a fun time. I met some great people, like Keith Pittsburgh Dope. He ended up coming on to be one of the guest chefs on one of the episodes. And he's very well-known photographer and videographer here in the city of Pittsburgh. Rick Seaback was one of the guest judges, which I love Rick.
Yeah.
And he's going to be one of the judges at the Ultimate Wing and Max SmackDown.
Oh, he is. Wow. Okay.
So me and Rick I met him years ago. I think we were both judging like a burger competition. I've judged so many food competitions in the city, and I love doing stuff like that, which is why, I enjoyed putting on the food competition myself. So playing in Pittsburgh was just a dream come true. I was just like, I can't believe I'm going to be on TV and getting paid to do what I love. And so it was unfortunate, they ended up having a second season, and I wasn't on the second season. And I haven't seen anything after that. And I think they have a whole new team at very local and things like of that nature. But I would love to do something like that again. That's my dream, is to be able to travel, eat good food, and get paid for it.
Yes. Yes. I think we both agree on that. That would be the dream life. Wow. So do you have any like unforgettable dishes that you've had? They can be from anywhere. It doesn't necessarily have to be from Pittsburgh, but something that will always live rent-free in your head.
This is in Chicago. So my top 3 West food cities, and they change.
Fluctuate. Yeah.
Yes, but top 3 in no particular order, as I'm about to, maybe I should do it in alphabetical order.
Okay.
Chicago has amazing food. Chicago, Houston, NOLA.
Yes.
Are my top 3. And and I've visited lots of other places, but those are my top 3. And I feel like, and so I went to Houston for the first time in November for the Usher concert. And my sister's actually on her way to Houston right now. She's on the plane to Houston. So listen, Houston has some great food, but she lives in Chicago. So she's, in between two of my favorite places. But in Chicago, there's Kitchen and Cocktails, and they have this fried green tomato, and it has 2 shrimp on the top of it, and it's in this Cajun cream sauce, and it's sitting on a bed of grits.
Oh,
this
my
fried
God.
green tomato, every time I go to Chicago, I want to go to Kitchen and Cocktails and get this fried green tomato. It is chef's kisses. The fried green tomato is fried perfectly. It's kind of light, but that sauce and the shrimp and the grits, just everything together, it's just an amazing flavor bomb combination.
Wow.
It's amazing. So that's like one of the first things I'm thinking of. I've had so many amazing dishes. I have a thing for grits because I went to I was in Charleston, South Carolina for a friend's wedding some years ago. And I got off the plane, I got my rental car, and I started looking up some places to go. And I went to this restaurant, I cannot think of the name. And they had a fried grit cake, and there was shrimp and all this other stuff. That was also
Really?
It's like some homemade biscuits. I said, y'all got me ready to move immediately. Like I remember like how I felt when I was eating that dish. Really, really good. Houston, again, I had some delicious ribs there. I ended up going to what is Bun B's, a restaurant with the burgers?
A trail burger, yeah.
Burger, fire. I bought some of those back on the plane. I did. So I'll bring people back food from out of town. Like that's my thing. Another thing I do when I travel is I bring alcohol back that we can't get here. I have to also show you my alcohol collection, my liquor collection.
Yeah.
And I bring back all types of stuff. And I don't like when I'm entertaining, you can try any of the bottles. But I love bringing stuff back that we can't get here. I know there's just I've just ate so much food. And I know there's so many things that I'm not even thinking about at the moment, but those are the couple I'll name for right now.
Wow. When you bring up Houston and ribs, I'm thinking about barbecue, and I just have this dream road trip. It's like a foodie road trip. Now, I'm probably telling the right person to help me put it together, so I wouldn't know the first. But a foodie road trip where we follow the barbecue line from Texas, like we fly out to Texas and we get a bus to drive us from Texas through Tennessee into the Carolinas, and we try the different barbecues. Like, I'm not sure what that would look like, but I don't know why it's stuck in my head, but
We gotta make it happen.
Yes, yes. And now I gotta go trademark it before I put this episode.
Right.
But so with food writing, so you started with your blog and then you were just so blessed to be able to do very amazing publications here in Pittsburgh. So when you're sitting down to write about a restaurant, do you have a process how you wish for them to look, or how do you go about beginning your writing?
It depends. I feel like I don't necessarily follow like traditional do this, and this. I kind of just start writing and I might go back and edit some stuff and move some stuff around. And it just depends on how I'm feeling again. If there's a certain word count, I'm trying to stay within the word count. I might have to delete some stuff or add some additional stuff. I don't really have a set way that I do it.
Mhm.
And when I decided to stop doing it, like I said, I felt like I just like lost the passion for the writing part of it, not for the food, but for the writing part of it. So I didn't really, that I can think of, have a set way that I was approaching the articles. I just feel like it's very important to talk about the customer service, talk about the ambiance of the restaurant, talk about the food, the taste, the service. Those are all things that go into the meal. It's not just about the food itself. And
Yes.
so that is one thing that I try to make sure that I did, was highlight some of those other areas outside of the food, to make it a full experience.
Right, right, exactly. And you mentioned when you wrote for Eater, your first very big international publication, that you chose to do and focus on, African American establishments. Now,
Mhm.
I remember when it first came out, there was a few conversations, and I remember having a conversation with the coworker. Well, there's plenty of places we can put a few, of everybody into the article. I don't know why she would focus on just that. And I had to explain to her, that sometimes we're left out. We have,
And that's
go
I'm
ahead, go
sorry.
ahead, go ahead.
No, I mean, that's how I felt. I'm like, Pittsburgh comes out with these lists every year from multiple different publications, list the best restaurants and this and that. And a lot of times it's not featuring the Black restaurants. And so when I have a platform and I'm able to highlight these Black owned restaurants, that's exactly what I'm going to do, because we are left out of a lot of the lists that come out here locally, if it's not coming from a African American publication. So this was my way of being able to highlight some of these, Black establishments on a very grand and large scale. And I don't regret it at all.
I agree. I just feel like when we have the opportunity to showcase, our brothers and sisters, we should take it and take full advantage. I agree with you because there are more opportunities out there for our counterparts. And I'm glad that you're unapologetic about that.
Energetic. And I do want to shout out Alan Rubens, because that's like my favorite restaurant in the area.
Girl.
It's in Washington, PA. I've got a chance to write about them several times. I did an article in the
Mhm.
Courier one time, like best places for date night. I highlighted Alan Rubens as, like, a place that's worth the drive to go to.
Right. Most
You know,
definitely.
yeah, and I also included them in that Eater publication because they are serving Black excellence up on a plate. It's Italian with a soulful twist. And so some of the best bites I've also had, especially in this area, have been from Alan Rubens.
Yeah.
And they spoil me when I go there, and I
Yeah.
owe them a visit. So I'm ordering things that aren't on the menu anymore. Alan is in the kitchen. He'll whip it up for me. So I appreciate them. And I've never had a bad meal there. Never had a bad experience there. So shout out to Alan Rubens, Alan and Lisa.
I agree with you because the times that I have been there, the food has always been on point. There's never been any lackluster moment.
Hmm.
Sometimes with our companies or our restaurants, we go there, it's a big fanfare when they open, and then a couple weeks later you go there and we don't have this, we don't have that, and then the customer service is not up to par.
And,
So,
and, I, and I will agree with you there. And there was at one point where I had thought about starting a restaurant consulting business for
mhm,
that reason, because I feel like there are a lot of people who are gifted and talented in cooking, but don't know how to run a business.
exactly.
and they
Exactly.
need that additional assistance to, help them to catapult them into the next level. And so it just isn't about how good your food is. Like I mentioned, what I want to highlight in the articles, the ambiance, the customer service, the staff, all those things go into owning a business. And you have to hit on all those marks. It can't just be about your food is good and you think that you can start a business, because there's so much more than that. And
Oh,
so there was a time where I thought about starting a restaurant consulting business, and it's still in my mind, but I have to do some less of some other things before I can put that on my plate.
yes. Understood. When I moved to Richmond, Virginia, I opened a restaurant consulting business. And I
Oh,
had the chance to do 3 accounts, 3 restaurants. And it was amazing. It was so much fun. I loved it. But when it's not your restaurant and you feel that you are consulting someone who wants your little 2 cents, sometimes it's a battle when you're trying to tell them, hey, this menu is not very cohesive with what you're trying to represent or what you're trying to, for instance, there was a restaurant where we were discussing French boatmen during the slavery time. And there were a lot of Italian dishes on the menu. Nothing was French, nothing was African American in a sense, and I really wanted to highlight those things from that time. I just feel
yeah,
like during the slavery time, we should at least acknowledge cornbread, cornerstone of back in the day, okra, a lovely story behind okra in that time period, and how, the different things that are being shipped into the country during that time period. So,
mhm,
but, to each his own. so, so there are Cultivate Cruises and then there's Cultivate Enterprises. Can you explain the both of them and how and what it is you're doing for the city of Pittsburgh with those?
yes. So Cultivate Enterprises is basically the umbrella company that Cultivate Cruises falls under. So
Mhm.
with Cultivate Enterprises, me and my partner, Mr. Rice, shout out to Mr. Rice,
Yes.
we are a management, entertainment, and events company. And so we're offering management services to artists. So Mr.
Mhm.
Rice also is a rapper. He
Mhm.
just started rapping, but he's had some amazing opportunities come his way as well. Just a few weeks
Oh,
ago, we were
awesome.
in Philadelphia. He was able to participate in the celebrity boxing match there and bring out one of the fighters to one of his original songs. You know what I mean? So that was a huge opportunity for him, especially with him being a new artist. And so
Mhm.
I manage his entertainment career also.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So in addition to
Okay.
us being business partners, I manage his entertainment career. And so we're all going to be offering management services to other artists. And in addition to that, events and entertainment. And so Cultivate Cruises is the premier boating experience for African Americans in the city of Pittsburgh.
Yes.
And we have actually a 17 passenger pontoon boat. We took 12 up to 12 guests at a time out to see the three rivers. And I think it's so important for us to get more of us on the water. Pittsburgh, we have three rivers here, and I don't feel like we utilize them enough. And so some years ago, we had started talking about us buying a boat and doing this business. And we
Mhm.
talked about it for years on and off. So it's not something that we just, oh, we're going to buy. This was something we talked about for years on and off. We have, we did our SWOT analysis. We're doing all types of research. We're looking at
Wow.
boats. And we actually have 3 boats, but only one boat is in the water right now. The other 2 need some work done to them, and they're smaller vessels. And so our
Cool.
goal is to become, to maybe one day own a cruise line. We don't know where this is going to
Mhm.
take us, but we are going into we're in our second season right now. Our first season was very successful. We had
Mhm.
over 430 people get on the boat last year.
Wow.
And yes, and a lot of them, it was their first time being on a boat. And so we welcome infants to elderly, everybody can get on the boat. We last Juneteenth, we did $19 30-minute rides. We had over 60 people get on the boat that day. So we're just trying to get more African Americans comfortable with being on the water, because one, I can't swim. And so I understand the fear of people not being able to swim or us not wanting to get our hair wet and different things like that.
Yes.
Safety first on the Cultivate Cruises. We have life jackets on board for everybody, not that
Yeah.
you use them. And one of the sayings that Mr. Rice says as listen, this is a cruise. We're not going to go fast. We're not going to go far, but we're going to have a good time while we do it. And so Cultivate, cruises it's been a blessing. This year it's been a little bit slow because it's been so much rain. And
Yeah.
we're still going strong. We have a lot of some things in the pipeline that we're going to be excited to announce. So, and then with Cultivate Enterprises as well, we, like I said, we're doing events. And so we're doing a summer series right now called Bikes, Boats, and Brunch, because bike riding is also something we love to do. And
Oh, wow.
June, July, and August, the second Sundays of each month, we're doing a 30-minute bike ride. And then we're getting brunch catered from a local Black caterer,
Mhm.
doing like a 45-minute boat ride. So after we get done with the bikes, we'll have brunch and go out on the boat. And so we did our first one a couple of weeks ago. We had 7 people come along. We were really excited. And so we'll be doing that again on July 13th and again on August 10th. And then at the end of August, we're actually doing a beach party. We're doing a day trip up to Conneaut Lake.
Really?
Yes. So we are getting, we'll have transportation, and we're going to transport people from Pittsburgh, bring them up to Conneaut Lake. We're going to go to the beach. We're going to get on the boat while we're up there. And then Mr. Rice actually owns 8 acres of land up at Conneaut Lake. And so we're going to end the night with a bonfire on the land and then take people back home. So those are just a couple of the events that we have going on throughout the summer. And we'll be putting on other events later on this year as well.
That's amazing. I definitely want to be in that place to be. Can you repeat the dates
Yeah.
again for me?
For the Bikes, Boats, and Brunch, the next dates for that are July 13th and August 10th. And the beach party at Conneaut Lake is on August 20th.
Okay, everybody, if we look in the notes box, you will see ways to get connected with Briana and how to get your tickets and see the dates for these events, because this sounds like something you do not want to miss. I know I'm going to be in the house. Man, that's wow. I'm so excited. The summer sounds like it's going to be so much fun. I just wonder, like, what frame of mind gives you the drive to want to make things happen in Pittsburgh, like these different events, the smackdown, the beach day. What brings that out in you?
Listen, I have to live here. We're living here, and it's like we might as well have fun while we do it. And then you see, so not that I've seen this particularly, but we just want people to have fun. We want to have people to have a good time, eat good food, make memories. And so, sometimes people can't travel. Like, traveling is something I love to do. So it's like, listen, if you're here, we're going to have this event. And sometimes we struggle with like dates, like, oh, people might be out of town for this event, but there's some people who can't travel or can't do this. So we want to make these events accessible for everybody. We try to make things affordable, and we're really just all about trying to bring fun events to the city of Pittsburgh, and being together with like-minded people as well, people who want to have fun, who want to, you know, do things without any drama and that type of thing. And so, and actually, when me and Mr. Rice are having our meetings, sometimes we're meeting like every day. You know what I mean? We're really good at working together and bouncing ideas off of each other when it comes to the things that we want to do. And we really just love to incorporate the things that we like to do personally. For example, like the bikes. That's something that we started doing when the pandemic hit, because there was not much to do, and that we
Yeah.
fell in love with bike riding. We're like, we want to bring this to other people because
Right.
it's something that we love to do. And so we're combining all the things that we love to do: boating, eating good brunch, you know what I mean? So that's
Yeah.
where it comes in as well.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. So this is my favorite part of the interviews, the fun rapid fire questions. So I'll ask you a couple of questions, and whatever comes first into your mind, you just let it out. Okay. So, sweet or savory?
But
Favorite childhood dish?
it's something from my grandma. Maybe my grandma's pancakes. Everything my grandma used to make was my grandma's mac and cheese. My grandma was like the best cook, and now she's older and she doesn't cook anymore. But my grandma's food growing up was everything to all of us.
That's amazing. One kitchen item you cannot live without.
Microwave was the first thing that's terrible. And the reason why is because I save my leftovers. When I go out to restaurants, and I'm drinking or I'm eating the bread and the salad. So by the time my food comes, I'm like almost full. I might take a few bites, but let's believe I'm taking it home. But sometimes I also put it up in the pan, depending on what it is.
Right.
Being able to throw something in the microwave, and I know I'm not like, I don't use an air fryer that much. I know so many people who are like, they're air fryer.
Really?
Yes, I have one. And every time I'm like, Mr. Ray, show me how to use this. You know what I mean? I'm not a big air fryer person, but a microwave, so I can just throw my leftovers in there or whatever.
Question. So do you have the air fryer that has the basket, or do you have the air fryer that's kind of like a little oven?
It has a pull-out basket.
I'm going to suggest that you get the Chefman air fryer
Okay.
because that thing will change your life. Okay.
Okay.
I bought it because somebody on Instagram was baking a cheesecake in there.
Wow.
And it does everything: rotisserie, fries, bakes. It even has a dehydrator. It's amazing. One book or podcast that has changed your life.
Bible.
That's amazing.
Yes, I grew up with the Bible, grew up in church.
Yes, I agree. I agree. Wow. I just want to thank you. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation. This was actually the best time that I had, but I just want to say thank you for taking the time to do this with me.